Hey everyone, today we're going to be checking out some travel gear from Pelican. Here I have their AEGIS 25-liter backpack and the ATX hardshell carry-on roller. One thing that always comes to mind when I think of Pelican is durability. I see tons of Pelican cases when I'm traveling. It seems like people really trust them to store more sensitive items, and so I was very curious about the new travel collection backpacks. This 25-liter seemed to have a very well-rounded feature set. And then I just love the idea of a rolling suitcase that had the durability that Pelican is so well known for. It seemed like as a travel combo, this would be ready for anything that I could throw at it. And in this video, I'm gonna be talking about what it's been like to use these over the past couple of weeks. I'll show you how I've loaded them out, walk through all the features, and I'll also talk about how they compare to some of the other similar items that are currently on the market. Before jumping into the video, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Danny, and on this channel, we love reviewing popular travel and everyday carry gear. If you like these types of videos and you'd be interested in seeing more, please consider subscribing as it helps the channel out a lot. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump in. Starting off with the overall aesthetic, to me the appearance feels like a blend between a Pelican case and a modern hardshell roller. And so it's something that looks very rugged and adventure ready, but it's not gonna be out of place in an airport if you're traveling, throwing it into an overhead storage compartment. And I think that the appearance is actually quite cool. That's of course always subjective, but I like that it has the indents on the front to help separate the look from many of the other kind of sleeker rollers. And then you have the Pelican logo, which is a little bit prominent. It's also offered in a couple of different colors. As far as the materials, this feels very, very solidly built. This is the luggage that has most felt like a tank of any that I've had a chance to test out. Very premium feeling hardware all throughout. This exterior is Pelican armor, which is a proprietary blend that really feels like it's gonna hold up to pretty much anything that you throw at it. Pelican also talks about the idea of Pelican patina on their site, which feels like a really cool kind of acknowledgement of the fact that hardshell rollers are gonna develop scuffs. That's kind of comes with the territory and all the rollers that I've used, and so they seem to really embrace it as far as making sure that you're using this. And then the luggage is going to develop a personality, which I always believe. I talk about that with a lot of the bags that I use, and this is one of my first Pelican products, and so I'm excited to see kind of how it develops the more that I take it out. And as someone who hasn't really used Pelican cases in the past, I was very impressed to see just how well protected this is going to be from the elements. And so it seems like it's really designed to help keep water, sand, and dust out from the inside. So if you're somebody who travels with a lot of sensitive gear, it seems that that's gonna be really helpful. There is some features on the inside, a liner and a frame, which we'll take a closer look at later in the video, that help keep all of that out. And so that's something that I hadn't really seen with other luggages before. So very, very cool. And one of the things that comes with all of that protection and durability is the weight. So this is also one of the heaviest luggages that I've tested out. It comes in at almost 13 pounds, which I know is definitely gonna be a deal breaker for people who want to minimize the weight of their luggage if you're traveling on a stricter international airline. That's definitely gonna be tough with the 13 pounds that this is gonna take up. Now, there's always gonna be some sort of a trade-off between weight and durability, protection, and the features that are offered. And so for the people that really need that extra durability and peace of mind, I think that the weight trade-off is probably gonna be worth it. But for many others that just need to get, kind of their clothing and other items from point A to B, there's definitely some lighter options that may be worth considering. But, 13 pounds definitely caught me a little off guard when I saw that. But you can see where that weight is going given how indestructible this feels. Continuing along the outside, the handles that are offered here feel very, very rugged. They kind of have this system here that pulls them down when they're not in use. Slides down very smoothly. One on the side, one at the top that'll make it, maneuverable if you're getting this into a trunk, into an overhead storage compartment. And then you have the very smooth working Hinomoto wheels here. I like that they don't come out too low from the bottom of the bag, so the height isn't impacted, and they have worked very consistently, super smoothly on any surface that I've been rolling them on. I can, move this around in circles, pull it, push it, and so no issues at all with the wheels. And I do like that you have a point at the bottom too to help grab the suitcase in addition to the handles. And then on the back, you can actually take a look at the telescoping handle. And so this also feels very rugged and it comes up reliably. You have a couple of different heights that you can set this to. You have the button at the top, and then you can pull it up all the way so that you can easily push it next to you, pull it, And so far everything locks into place very securely. And you have here some verbiage on the back to indicate that this is a genuine Pelican case. As far as the capacity, this is listed at about 30 liters, so it's smaller than many of the other hard shell rollers that I've been looking at on the channel, which typically come in at around 38 to 41 liters. I was still able to hold the items that I would normally take with me on a 1 to 2 week trip, but I didn't have as much leftover space as I'm used to when I'm traveling with a luggage. And so I think that this is gonna work well for people that want something more compact that's gonna give you still a good layout and the durability, but I know that Pelican also has a couple of different sizes in the ATX series if you need a little bit more space. Jumping into how I've loaded this out, there's no external compartment, so you just have the main storage area. And to access that, you have these really nice buckles on the side. They do have a combination that you can reset to whatever you want, and I love how premium and durable these feel. They have this system here that just allows them to open up super smoothly, and when you close them up, it just locks into place. So satisfying to hear that click, and they just have a very solid feeling material here. It really feels like everything is secured on the inside. And then you have kind of a standard hard shell roller layout here with the 2 compartments. And you can see here on the inside that they have this sort of liner that is what helps keep all of those elements outside of the luggage. And so that's what's gonna provide your protection from dust, from water, from sand, is all of this extra stuff here, which I hadn't really seen in other roller bags before. And that's one of, I think, the big differentiators, and it's gonna be helpful for people that are carrying camera gear in here or just very sensitive stuff. You can remove the liner. There is some information on Pelican's site about how this can be removed and what to do in case the inside of the bag gets wet. And so I think that that's really cool and unique to have that functionality present. And then the layout here works quite nicely. So I have kind of my standard loadout here. On one side, you have compression straps here along with a divider to kind of help keep everything pressed down in this section. And so this is a little bit narrower than many of the luggages that I've used. I can still fit my packing cubes in here, but it was tighter, to kind of squeeze it in. And so I have my smaller Peak Design compression cube here, as well as my larger compression cube. And one thing that's really cool is that Pelican actually has their own set of packing cubes that you can pair with the luggage. And so these feel very durable. They have a ripstop nylon and then some webbing on the outside, so you can clip on additional things. You can use these to hold gear that's not clothing if you want, but they do work well as packing cubes. You have a medium, a small, a large, and you can combine them in the way that you normally would with packing cubes. There's no compression on these, so they are very simple cubes, but they get the job done. They feel durable. And then on the other side, you have a couple of zippers on this section here with mesh so that you can store additional gear, tech items. I just have a field notes notebook in here. You can put a passport wallet maybe, and then you have a smaller zippered section, which could be a good spot to place an air tag. And then a zippered divider to this other compartment here that has my Toms in a packing cube. So an extra pair of shoes there. I have another Peak Design pouch, my toiletry bag, and then an additional packing cube here. So, still able to hold an impressive amount of stuff. If I wanted to travel with an extra pair of shoes that was a little bit bulkier, I might replace one of the pouches or the additional packing cube. And then on the inside here, very simple layout, which I'm always a fan of. I prefer to not have a lot of complications so that I can just, use the packing space with the stuff that I want to store on the inside. So, overall, I like the layout, and I think that the functionality here feels very durable, very reliable. I can see why Pelican is so well known in the industry for carrying things like camera gear, as it feels like everything is very protected in here. And I think that it's going to be maybe a more niche luggage, just given the weight trade-offs and some of the additional functionality that maybe normal travelers won't take full advantage of. But if you want the ultimate in protection, then I think this is going to be a really cool option to take a look at. Taking a look at the Aegis backpack, this has a little bit more of a functional and slightly tactical vibe. You have a couple of rows of webbing along the exterior, compression straps, and I think that that matches up well with the more rugged vibe of the bag. So definitely something that feels like it's going to be able to handle rougher environments without looking overwhelmingly technical. As far as the materials, this feels very solidly built. The exterior is Pelican Shield technology, which is meant to be kind of a hybrid between a hard shell and soft shell bag. And so you have this EVA molded front panel that feels rigid, protective, and then the bag uses some really durable Cordura fabrics all around. Beyond that, you have some really nice feeling hardware, buckles, and the weight of the bag is better than I would have expected. It comes in at slightly under 3 pounds, and you also have some well-protected YKK zippers all throughout. Continuing along the outside of the bag, I was happy to see that you have an external water bottle pocket, and this is going to offer a nice amount of space and elasticity. It was able to handle my 26-ounce Yeti Rambler, and that feels like a secure hold. It's got a pretty good height, and then when you pull the bottle out, the elasticity pulls that pocket close to the bag, which is great. And you have some rows of webbing on the water bottle pocket and all around the bag. So you have a lot of different ways that you can secure gear onto the bag using carabiners. You can attach a hero clip, which I have here. There's different sizes. And so you can attach that there. And then you have webbing along the front as well. And so this is a little bit tighter, but it is gonna pair up well with all sorts of different accessories. And you just have lots of different options on the front, on the sides, near the handle as well. And so, that's always gonna give you some extra flexibility for these types of things, which I normally like to have quicker access to or that don't fit inside of the bag. On each side, you have a compression strap that has a nice buckle so that you can easily release it and use it to secure additional gear, particularly if you want to pair it with the water bottle pocket for a tripod or something like that. One thing I'll note about these buckles is that they do get in the way a little bit when you want to open the bag all the way up, but still nice to have that additional bit of functionality on the exterior. At the top, you have a very nice carrying handle. This is well reinforced. It's got a nice amount of padding. It's almost a gel-like material here, so this feels great. On the front of the bag, you have this Velcro patch area so that you can add an ID or customize it with the patch of your choice. You also have the Pelican logo. And then the last thing I'll mention while we're talking about the exterior is that the bag has stood up quite well on its own due to the flatter bottom that it has, as well as its more rigid structure. Moving into the capacity, the bag comes in at about 25 liters, and in general, I'm a big fan of this size as it feels very versatile. It's something that I can use for my day-to-day, but I still have some leftover capacity for longer days or if I want to use it for minimal travel. Now, this does feel like a pretty generous 25 liters, particularly with the rigid structure of the bag. It feels a little bulkier than some other bags in this size range, and it's going to maintain its shape whether it's full or it's empty. And so I still think that it's going to be versatile, but it's something that I would be a little bit more worried to take onto some of the stricter airlines, for example, as a personal item, particularly on the height. It's a little bit of a taller bag, but for the most part, it still feels like something that's going to work well in a lot of different situations. Continuing with the harness system, so far the bag has been really comfortable to wear. I like how the straps have been implemented here. They have a nice amount of padding that feels really soft, comfortable, and cushioned. On the inside, you have a breathable material to help prevent moisture from building up. The straps also have a good width to help prevent the bag from digging into your shoulders when it's a little bit more packed out. You have a couple of attachment points on the strap. You can use this to attach your lights, hang your sunglasses, and then an adjustable sternum strap with a safety whistle. And moving into the back panel, this has also felt comfortable. You have a more rigid padding here that's well distributed all throughout. You also have some elevation to create these air channels to provide you with some ventilation while you're walking around. And then you also have a luggage pass-through that's going to allow you to rest this on a suitcase while traveling to save some weight on your back. And I really like the orientation of this that will allow the backpack to stand up to make it easier to get to your laptop. Jumping into the organizational options, you have a quick access pocket on the side. This again has a well-protected zipper, and this is going to be a good spot for those items that you're going to be grabbing more regularly. And so you have a decent amount of space on the inside here. I just tossed in a pair of scissors, and then you have some slip pockets as well on the back. They have a nice material, and in this one here, I have a Field Notes notebook, and then at the one at the bottom, I have a charging cable with the wall adapter for my phone and my tablet. Beyond that, you don't really have much more quick access here at the top or on the front, which I normally like to see. So it'd be cool to see maybe just one more pocket. You do have a dedicated laptop area on the back. Again, really nice zipper here. And I love that it's top loading to match up with the luggage pass-through. And the implementation here is great. You have a nice amount of padding. This is suspended off the bottom of the ground, so you can drop your laptop in there. You have a soft lining on the back. and this should be able to hold a 15 or 16-inch laptop comfortably. Currently I have my 14-inch MacBook Pro. Very easy to get my laptop out. Now with the compartment empty, you can get a better look at the inside. This does come up a decent amount, so if you happen to have a thicker laptop, it should be able to fit in here comfortably. And with the amount of padding and the fact that this is pulled up off the bottom of the ground, it does feel like my device is gonna be well protected while I'm on the go. And also in this compartment, you have a couple of slip pockets at the top that are gonna be great for some of your tech accessories. So at the moment here, I have my USB-C hub, along with its charging cables and a USB-C cable for my laptop. The last area that we're gonna be taking a look at is the main compartment. This has pretty much a clamshell style opening. One thing I wanna call out here is that you do have the ability to lock this area, which is nice. And then as I was saying earlier, you do have to release the compression straps on the side so that you can open this up all the way. And so the zippers go down a good amount. Because of the rigid structure of the bag and where it bends, I did notice that if it's not full all the way, you do have kind of this shape that sort of starts to form here, and so can look a little bit different than what you might expect. So not a huge deal, and I think that this is just kind of one of the trade-offs that you get for having this really rigid and protective structure. So I think that it makes sense. And then you have a nice amount of visibility into this main area. Again, with 25 liters of space, with this type of compartment, you can hold a ton of stuff. This has extra stuff even than what I normally carry with me. And it still feels like I have plenty of leftover space. And so diving in here at the top, I have my AR sunglasses that I use to watch movies while traveling. And then I have my Beat Studio wireless headphones, alpaca admin pouch, the Evergood Civic Access pouch 1 liter. I have my Lockbee Tech pouch, Civic Access pouch 1/2 liter, Bellroy Tech kit, which is a little bit more rigid, and then I have the Civic Access pouch 2 liter down here at the bottom. So my typical setup fits in here with no issues, and then with the amount of space that's offered here, I could definitely use this for minimal travel if I wanted to toss in a packing cube, my toiletry bag, an extra pair of shoes, and maybe a couple more items. I could definitely use this for a longer weekend trip. And then on the inside, you have some additional rows of webbing along the sides and on the back. And the bag does include a couple of these straps here, which you can use to secure some of Pelican's cases. That's how they showcased it on the product page. I didn't end up using these too much. I left them in case I wanted to, but for the most part, I just left them here kind of out of the way. And then because you have all of these, rows of webbing, you can really configure this to match up with the accessories that you want to carry. So I like the flexibility there. And then on the other side, you have this hook and loop backing that you can use to attach additional accessories and pouches. Here I have a tearaway pouch from VanQuest, so you can just toss that in. There's lots of different accessories that can allow you to really customize how you want this area to be. And then if you don't want to use that, it still just provides a nice kind of extra space here. And again, a protective shell, which feels like it's gonna keep everything on the inside very well protected. And at the top, you have a nice zippered pocket that offers a good amount of space and keeps items near the top. So this is probably as close to a quick access area as I have in this bag. It would be near the top. I would reach down, and this is where I was storing my sunglasses with their case, and then my AirPods. And this feels like a really nice, almost cushioned material here. So those items definitely felt like they were gonna be safe. So a simple layout here, but I really like the amount of space that's been provided and how protective everything feels, which definitely feels in line with what I would expect from a Pelican product. And so if you're looking for a rugged all-purpose bag that's gonna offer a nice amount of flexibility and plenty of protection, this is gonna be a really cool option to take a look at. And so to wrap up, it's been a pretty great experience testing out the AEGIS backpack and the ATX Carry-On over the past couple of weeks. You can currently purchase these on the company site. The backpack's gonna come in at around $230, and then the ATX Carry-On is gonna come in at around $500. So definitely an investment at $230. The AEGIS backpack feels like it's in line with a lot of the other similar bags in this category as far as the features and the durability that it offers. And then same for the carry-on. I was actually surprised to see that this is made in the USA. And then considering the durability that it offers and the features that it includes, it feels like even though $500 is not a cheap price point by any means, it seems comparable to some of the other, very well-built bags in this category, many of which are not built in the USA, which tends to come with a bit of a premium. So I think that they both offer a good value for the prices that they come in at. And so as I was testing these out, the first company that came to mind is Nomadic, particularly the 25-liter Peter McKinnon and Nomadic camera pack collaboration. I really like that that one had a more rigid shape that felt very protective, particularly if you're carrying camera gear. It has a modular layout, weather-resistant exterior, comfortable harness, luggage pass-through, dedicated laptop compartment. That one comes in at a fairly similar price point to this. I believe that it's now close to $300, so actually a little bit more expensive, but it does feel like a very premium bag if you're looking for something that's gonna have, a flexible layout. If you're a fan of Peter McKinnon. This bag also made me think a lot about the Yeti Ranchero, which I featured recently. That is offered in a 22 and 27 liter size. I really like that that has the tri-zip opening after Yeti acquired Mystery Ranch. It's great to see the blending of the styles. So very rugged exterior, weather resistant materials, lots of flexibility with how you can access your gear, external water bottle pockets, comfortable harness system. There are a few different sizes. You have the 22 liter size that I featured on the channel, and then the 27 liter size that has a dedicated laptop compartment, which might feel a little closer in size to this one that I have here. So very rugged and a great alternative if you want a bag that's gonna have a little bit of a different layout. And then on the luggage front, we've looked at some great luggages recently. One of my favorites has been the Bellroy Transit Carry-On, which is a hard shell roller. It's a little bit lighter, and it has, a simple layout. It opens down the middle like a standard kind of roller bag, but it also has built-in packing cubes that you can use to keep your stuff kind of compressed down. You can remove them, and so it's a really cool kind of flexible layout. Very smooth working wheels, replaceable components, and so if you're looking for a hard shell roller that does the basics well, that's gonna be a really cool option to consider. We also took a look at the Carry-On from Carl Frederick, which had a very rugged and stylish appearance. I really like how distinct that one looks. It also has really nice buckles along the side, smooth working wheels, and a simple layout that's going to allow you to maximize the amount of stuff that you can fit on the inside. So if you want something that's going to be a little bit maybe more business focused, if you're traveling with a nicer outfit, then that's going to be a fantastic option to consider. With that being said, the Aegis backpack and the ATX Carry-On hold up well against all those options. And if you're looking for gear that's gonna be very rugged, if you're going into a harsher environment and durability is gonna be your top priority, and you want something that's also gonna offer a nice amount of functionality and flexibility, then these are gonna be some really cool options to consider. And I'm definitely curious to hear what you all think of the Aegis backpack and the ATX Carry-On and how they compare to some of the other similar items that are currently on the market. And if you have any recommendations for other Pelican products or carry-ons that I should check out, as always, please let me know in the comments. And I want to thank the company for sending the items for me to test out, and to you guys for watching and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like, and if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming videos, and we'll see you in the next one.